So signaling that Zika not feeling comfortable playing it, but Vici going with the more standard, hey, we ban out one, you're forced to have to decide to ban out the other, so Vici potentially going to be able to take away this Aphelios if LNG don't ban it here.
Yeah, you'd expect LNG to go for the Aphelios ban, but it is possible to play around it, and they decide that they want to ban Set instead. So Vici, I mean, with the way that the bans have gone, you expect this to be an Aphelios first pick.
Yep, there's really nothing else that comes to mind. Of course, you could go with something like an Ashe or a Kai'Sa, but why would you?
When you've drafted this way, when you ban the Ezreal last, like, it screams Aphelios at you. So now on the side of LNG, what's the best way to answer? Something like a jungler here?
Typically, you would see the Trundle along with... You could take away the Thresh, so Trundle Thresh, I'd say, is the best one. If you don't want to show support, or I guess even jungle, right? You take one of those with your AD carry as well. But you don't need to pick AD carry here because, you know, Vici aren't going to take away an AD. They have Aphelios.
Well, I've got some bad news for you, Lyric, because they're going to pick AD carry here. They're going for this Kalista once again for light, but they do go for that Thresh that you mentioned.
Yeah, so this is a fine rotation, right? You at least get one of the high priority S tiers. You take away the Thresh from the Aphelios, and now Vici having the confidence to say, hey, we're going to be the ones to pick up this Volley Bear.
I like it. Maybe Cube taking that one. This could still go anywhere, though. We've seen it in support around the world. We've seen it in the jungle as well, so I'm not going to make any bold statements about where that's going just yet.
And Zika also going back to LeBlanc, so we saw him play in their last series against Victory 5, and it's a champion even in spring, the few games he got to play, looked very good on.
Yep, Zika with the LeBlanc, having a bit more agency in this game. We saw him in the Galio in game number 1, not a champion that you can individually snowball the game with. Maple sticking to this Zoe pick.
Yeah, so we have a bit of an interesting dynamic where I'm actually surprised that LNG are just going to opt to ban out junglers rather than looking to ban out supports themselves. Though I guess there aren't really too many things that pair too well with the Aphelios. I guess the expected bans would be maybe Nautilus Leona, right? Just hard engage up against the Zoe as well as two champions that fare decently into Thresh.
We'll have to see, because LNG with the ban, or there's the Nautilus ban that you were talking about there, with the ban on Lee Sin, Lien could be cackling to himself here, because it is possible that that Volibear does just go in the jungle, and maybe that's just a wasted ban. On the other side, though, Vici also banning away the jungle picks here as the Trundle is taken off the board. The Graves already banned. And you mentioned the Jarvan 4 for XX during that first game. Potentially, yeah, it's going to be open as we move into the second round of the draft.
And this is what XX is known for in my mind. It's a champion he actually is very good on. But now I want to move and see where do Vici go with support. I'd say Leona's the expected one. We don't see a lot of Tahm Kench here in the LPL, but Tahm Kench still does give Aphelios that safety, and you would feel fine laning against something like a Kalista Thresh.
I do like the Leona, though, over something like a Tahm Kench, just because look at what else is in this composition, right? With a LeBlanc there, with this Volibear that we just saw Flandre more than happy to just dive into the backline. Leona is definitely going to bolster that.
I always prefer just hard engage and team fight composition, so I like Hung going towards this pick, and
it's going to be it.
I'm just going to say, not going to go back towards our graphic, but Cube is known as a bit of a Renekton.
He does like Renekton and things that look like Renekton,
so
and that definitely looks like a Renekton to me.
But we actually get our first Volibear jungle here in the LPL. Yeah.
Baloo coming through from the jungle book in there as Lien going to be taking that. So the Lee Sin ban was a waste in the end, and now LNG just have to round this one out. And I'm curious what Flandre is going to bring to the table against this Renekton in the top side.
The Mordekaiser would do fine, right? It looks good in your composition. You have an AD jungler, so it will give mixed damage if you do want to look and gank towards that top side. I also like when Mordekaiser's in the composition against LeBlanc because, right, she feels pressure jumping into your team because you can always get pulled into the Death Realm and 1v1 to buy said Mordekaiser.
So now with our compositions fully drafted out, once again, a lot of power here for LNG when it comes to the mid-game. But kind of a similar story on the opposite side of the scoreboard here.
Exactly.
Well.
We have two very similar compositions. Both of them, it's all about mid-game brawling here today, Punchable. So sad that today isn't Fight Night, which you guys had the other day. But for Vici, it's going to be a lot more about the top side. You obviously have a strong Renekton pick, and LeBlanc always wanting to get out of lane herself. For LNG, you actually have options in all three lanes. But when you have a Kalista Thresh, you always expect some attention to be paid towards the bot side.
We'll see if the junglers are going to focus on those lanes, because that was one of the big criticisms we had in game number 1, is that we didn't really see the same focus we were expecting. But now coming into game number 2 with XX on this Jarvan that we know him so well for, I'd love to see him focusing to try and get these lanes snowball and get themselves ahead as they move towards the dragon fights.
Yep, we need to think about the one benefit that Jarvan has over a lot of other junglers is that he's a very potent level 2 gank. So if he can get into a lane at level 2, start the snowball early, that's what we'd love to see here from XX.
And let's bear in mind that there's a Thresh there. Thresh is great at setting up. He's great at following up on ganks as well. So Light could be the focus for LNG. On the other side of the board, though, Vici, as you rightly mentioned, Lian could focus up towards the top side where Cube is on his Renekton.
Exactly. And going to be really interesting to see this Volley Bear. We do see Jungle Volley Bear just does go straight up full tank, but he's very good in the early game skirmishes since he is a bruiser and also has a pretty good clear speed. So we're going to want to keep an eye on his own 1v1s and playing around that priority through the top side.
Well, it's time to get on Summoner's Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for game number 2 of the series. LNG starting things off strong here. But Vici, I feel with a bit more of a convincing draft coming into game number 2, and I'm hoping that around the mid-game, we can see these contestants once again. We saw a lot of mid-game brawling in game number 1, but this time, comparable power levels at similar points in the game for the two teams.
And that's what I'm excited about, because these two comps to me scream that we're going to see some action, right? When you pick things like Jarvans and Kallistas, you want to fight early game. When we have LeBlanc and Renekton on the other side, it is the same story.
It's just opposite sides of the map. That's going to be the key thing, is the pathing for these two junglers. And you can see already XX moving towards that bottom half of the map, so potentially starting on his blue buff here.
Exactly, and we've already talked about how he has a lot of options in the early game. I'd say mid would probably be the hardest since LeBlanc obviously is so mobile, but if you can hit a Sleepy Trouble Bubble and XX is around, you can look there, but top and bot are both great options for ganks. You've already highlighted the Thresh, and with Cube expected to push early on as well, that is going to be somewhere you can punish.
So now we could also, let's bear in mind, we've got a Leona Thresh matchup here. We've got Kalista in the lane as well. We could have some 2v2 action in the bottom lane.
Yeah, exactly. Kalista, especially, right, we always see her take this Halo Blades, definitely loves to play aggressive, and Leona is just a pick that really only knows how to go forward, but obviously, Thwan will have some options to flay him and keep him away off of Light.
It's important to mention as well, iBoy's on that Aphelios, so could scale up. Let's talk about these junglers, though. We've got Conqueror coming through here for Light.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting because over in the LEC, we're mostly seeing Press the Attack on the Jungle Volley Bear, which obviously Press the Attack is a lot more of an early dueling rune since, you know, you get it off 3 times, you already proc the damage, is very good in ganks because it also amplifies all incoming damage, so does well for your teammates as well. Conquer a lot more of a scaling and long-term skirmishing rune, so...
I've just had, I don't know if this is the case or not, but I've just had a brainwave that maybe Conqueror procs on each hit of the Volley Bear passive. Because that would be insane. In the middle of a team fight, if your lightning hits lots of members, you could just instantly proc.
I'm not positive, but I actually don't think it does.
Okay. Well,
but you know,
it sounded cool.
We're going to see.
We'll have to wait and see when we get to the fights. It does sound, in hindsight, like it would be pretty broken if it did that. I feel like maybe you would only see Conqueror.
To me, it's just so interesting that this champion in jungle is such a high priority in LEC, but we don't really see it anywhere else yet. So maybe Luoyan could be the stepping stone for us seeing this more in the LPL.
He's the first one to bring it out. And once again, with this Volley Bear, like, let's talk a little bit about how the champion's going to function as a jungler, because you can see potential for really strong ganks.
You need good gank setup from your laners, which I guess in this case you do, right? You have a Leona in the bot lane. Zika has some follow-up with the chain. The two things that jump out to me about him is he's very strong in the 1v1, so he can go try and fight XX in his jungle. And then obviously once he hits level 6, he's a very strong diver.
Well, he's going into the jungle of XX here, who's going to spot out that the crab is gone. Probably knows that something's going down. I think XX realizes this is not a fight he can take right now.
No, so great job of Luoyan playing off of his bot lane's priority. He's actually just going to go look to counter jungle a little bit. And I would expect to see XX after taking the Scuttle Crab to just gank top, but he actually could just go straight top here if he wanted.
XX could try and make a play, because Cube is pretty far extended as well. I'd love to see him trying to get this snowball going. Looks like Zika is Mowgli for the game as Leon tries to make something happen there. But Baloo's going to walk away empty-handed, as is XX, as Cube spotted him out.
Yeah, he would have had to go straight towards top side first, but I actually want to take a step back towards that gank we saw in mid. to where it shows, right? Volibear actually isn't the best ganker because all you can really do is run forward. Once you hit 6, sure, you have that bit of a pounce, but I would much rather see that with you diving a side lane turret.
Yeah. Also, if someone extends too far, just running forward quite often is enough. Especially if you can follow up on someone else's CC.
That's true, right? And I guess it depends on the state of the lane, but as long as your laners are cognizant.
Like, ultimately, I've seen plenty of Olafs that manage to pull off very aggressive ganks in the early games, so all he does is run forward. He's just really good at running forward.
It is also a bit different to where Olaf has the axe, right? So the threat from the slow kind of scares you a bit, but I guess the thing about Volibear is once he especially gets ultimate, even just seeing his model size change is quite intimidating.
He is a scary bear, that has to be said. And so far, he's building a scary CS lead in that jungle as well, doing a really good job farming up a storm, pun intended there. And when we look across the map here, you can see that the Cloud Drake has spawned Lien moving towards that half of the map.
Yeah, and he does still have this priority in the bot lane. Both top laners do have TP up right now, so if any action does happen, it'd be pretty even, but I do like the side of Vici if we do get this kind of skirmish right now in the bot lane, is we see Volibear being much stronger than the Jarvan, and Zeke going to have a very easy time following up on any action.
Moving towards the mid lane here, both junglers are there. As we're still looking at the bottom lane. There was definitely stuff happening on the minimap. Here we go, Hung goes in. iBoy could be in trouble as Line's jumping forwards as well. Exhaust onto this Aphelios. The death sentence so close from Duan. Good flash from iBoy to keep him safe.
And that was beautiful, and Duan has honestly been one of the big struggling members on this team. Seeing such a beautiful play coming out from his Thresh is great. And now your immobile AD carry having no summoners is going to be massive in any neutral fights going forward.
And we just talked about this Drake has spawned on the map. Vici are still going to be the ones to try and force the issue, though. Lien moves in to get some vision here. Let's bear in mind, XX is hanging around as well. Light and Duan could move over. Duan head back to base, though.
Yep, but still, we also saw that Hung did go back to base as well, so neither going to feel confident enough to really force a fight. Zika,
oh no! 6 HP. Lien missed the smite by 6 HP. That means XX grabs the crab.
Also interesting that we've seen neither team's jungler opt into trying to abuse topside. We talked about how Vici have obviously had a natural advantage. We could see Cube already winning in CS, but XX never went and tried to punish it. It looks like he wanted to after the scuttle, but it gave Cube time to back off. And Lien not trying to play through that priority all and go and bully XX in his own jungle. We saw it in the bottom side, but now that won't be able to happen now that iBoy's had to blow both summoners.
And it feels like Lien kind of just wants to farm it out on this Volibear right now. Like, he's got himself a CS advantage. And we've seen them, like, kind of eyeing each other up in the jungle when they're going to these rivers for the Scuttle Crabs. But ultimately, he doesn't seem that interested in the 1v1 potential.
Yeah, and it's quite strange because we've seen many times that even XX is aware that he isn't going to win the straight-up 1v1 against Volibear yet. He's a lot more about his utility and ganking a lane, using that CC. It's also going to impact how the rest of the game goes, to where I would say once we hit that 1-item mark especially is where LNG's comp feels a bit better than Vici's. But the longer the game goes, you're still facing an Aphelios, and Volibear obviously going to scale much better than a Jarvan.
That is for sure. When we talk about this Volibear and the way that Lien is playing it, let's bear in mind that this was locked in for Vici off the back of Flandre destroying them with the Volibear pick. It's also the first time we're seeing Volibear jungle in the LPL. There is a conversation to be had on whether or not Lien has had tons of practice on this Volibear, and maybe it's more of a takeaway than a priority draft for them.
Yeah, but going to use that Volibear to turn that into a Rift Herald, and we see great job from iBoy and Hung rotating up, just leaning in to make sure that he's able to do that. They're going to be able to head back to lane. Sure, Light is going to be able to get a bit of a CS lead, but doesn't look like they'll be able to turn that into anything more than potentially one plate.
And that's one of the downsides of this Kalista early on, right? It's one of the few AD carries, especially when you compare it to things like the Aphelios. Kalista really not very good at taking the turret place until you got more attack speed. You can see no attack speed items right now for the side of Light.
Exactly. That's why when you see a Kalista, you think a lot more of Dragon plays or Rift Herald or Baron, since that's obviously where the Rend really comes in handy rather than a turret-taking AD carry like something along the lines of an Aphelios or Tristana, Jinx, anything like that.
Even Ezreal, once he's got the Sheen, can do a lot of work onto a tower with his Essence Flux. But we're not going to be seeing that in this game here, as FLICKR just going to be able to clear himself away these minions, and in the meantime, the rest of the team has moved in on towards this dragon. XX the one to grab that one for himself. And Leanne just a little bit late to the party.
I do want to say, Munch, I'm very disappointed. I feel like I kind of misled you. I painted this story of LeBlanc Renekton on one side, Jarvan Kalista on the other. We're going to see early game brawls, and we're not there.
Do you know what, Lyric? I don't feel like you misled me. I feel like these teams have misled you. And then you, in turn, have been... The bamboozle has been... It's a chain reaction of events. And now you've bamboozled me in the audience.
Well, you know, it was starting out good. I'm like, cool. No blame, no responsibility. But in the end, it still comes back to me. Feels bad, man.
I don't think it's your fault. It's okay. I feel like if we were seeing FPX and E-Star with these two compositions, we'd have seen a lot of fighting already.
Yeah, but as of now, we've seen some CS leads, right? Cube bullying FLICKR probably feels pretty good, you know, after what happened in game 1.
This is like, you equating CS leads to fighting is like, you know, we've got fighting at home. The fighting at home is a 20 CS lead somewhere. This is, Leanne now moving in. He wants these crooks for himself, so we do finally see these junglers moving to the top side of the map, and it's going to be FLICKR bullied away.
Well, it might have taken 10 minutes and 49 seconds, but Lilian playing around his topside pryos, realizing, hey, I'm a bear. He's just a man with a javelin. Javelin, right? I can go fight him.
Javelin? He doesn't throw it?
Wait, what Jarvan has? What is it?
I don't even know what it is, honestly, but it's not a javelin. Javelin's a throwing weapon. Nidalee throws javelins.
He throws? What does he do?
It's a standard,
Oh, just
right?
like a flag.
Oh,
it is. It's just a
lance.
flag.
It's a lance.
Oh, okay.
Its passive is called Dragon Lance. Oh, no, it's not. It's called Martial Poise. Martial Strike? I don't know. I'm going down the rabbit hole here. It's a lance.
I'm not sold.
I don't know what to tell you. It is. I'm committing now.
I don't know why I'm arguing with you, because I don't know lore. I don't know the stories behind these champions.
I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily lore, to be honest.
If it's his weapon, it's involved in his story. It would be in his description somewhere.
I guess. Well, lore aside, since neither of us knows anything about it, let's instead talk about League of Legends that's happening on our screens. Or lack thereof. There is a monstrous CS lead up in that top lane, though, because Cube, with all of those turret plates that he managed to get for himself, he's already got a Black Cleaver.
And now we're going to start being able to see the fact of Cube abusing this long lane, just being able to push out the wave like he just did, and constantly hovering in Fog of War towards mid, which is going to make Maple have to play safely under his turret, and going to give Zika the room to hover towards bot side, and he'll just bring this pressure down across the map.
Yeah, Zika with that LeBlanc as well. Obviously, a lot of potential kill pressure there if he can find some targets for himself. But Maple, able to grab himself the blue buff. Duan is caught out here. Fate's caught to keep him safe as Leanne does use that ultimate now. Hung the one, the target on the front line. Duan walks away, but no, he doesn't. He's going to go down, and now Cube tearing through everyone on the back line. Jumps back out of the fight. FLICKR wants to tank things up here. He pulled Leanne into the death round, but with the Gravitum, he's the one caught. Barely gets out with his life.
Ooh.
No, he doesn't. Zika wants to make the play.
And this is why we were excited to see Zika on this LeBlanc. And honestly, I was a bit scared at first, because I don't think they needed to dedicate Cube's TP. They could have forced out FLICKR's TP, backed off, made the repeat play again and get more out of it. But great job by Zika making sure they can come out with a kill advantage to actually make that play worth.
Managing to make it worth, and when we look at the scoreboard, they're starting to build a pretty significant advantage.
And we see Duan here looking for the hook, and this is where Vici all in. And here you could back off, get the TP advantage, look to make the repeat play, but obviously Vici having confidence they could find the kills. They are going to get it onto Duan. Very decisive flash coming out from Cube, and Maple's able to delete Hung. This is where things get a bit dicey. We're going to see Lilian try to flash on FLICKR as he's backing off from the fight here. They do get a bunch of damage down, and this is where we see Zika having the confidence, flashing in, finishing off with another distortion, and just picking up that kill.
So many flashes in that fight, especially on the later half of it. But now 2,500 gold in favor of Vici so far. And we're talking about both of these compositions being mid-game focused. That gold lead can be a huge deciding factor.
Exactly, because that gold lead translates into an item lead, and right now we see that Cube and Zika both have their first items completed, to where the early game presence on the side of LNG Light doesn't have the Blade of the Rune King, Maple only sitting on the components of the Luden's Echo, so Vici can start translating this pressure, like we see Cube doing here, into a bigger advantage.
Cube's going to take a massive chunk from Maple, but he still is going to clear that control ward for himself.
And the thing I love is we're just seeing a very kind of standard macro play out of the fact that Vici were able to open up that top side, right? We've already set it up. Cube just pushes out an extra wave, is able to constantly hover mid, which gives Vici the freedom to play for any neutral objective in the bot side that they want.
And you can see as this Mountain Drake will go down to the side of Lien, it's going to be one apiece. We've got 2 mid-game focus compositions, and we've got Infernal Drakes as if they needed an incentive to fight.
And let's remember, even though we've set up that Vici's comp does have strong points in the mid-game, just keep building up towards this Aphelios because it is going to scale quite strong in the late game. Lien also going to be a very big presence himself.
Speaking of the Aphelios, iBoy is in over his head right now. Dodges the hook, though. Actually only uses 1 summoner.
Yeah, that was actually really clean. Not only dodging the hook, but was getting a lot of damage down on the Light to start it off.
I feel like we have to take it back about what we said about iBoy in game number 1, because we were criticizing him pretty heavily. That was a nice little play out of him to keep himself safe. In the meantime, the rest of his team getting heralded.
One thing me and you talked about before the cast today was to make these great plays like Rookie does, you need to put yourselves in situations of, ooh, Zika, though.
I've never been in a situation of Uzika.
Are you sure?
But I aspire to put myself in situations of Uzika in the future. Whatever Uzika is, it sounds like some kind of voodoo.
Putting yourself in positions of potential risk to make these great outplays, which sadly for iBoy, he does usually just get picked off. Doesn't make those great Rookie or Knight-esque outplays or Uzikas.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've not really seen that from him this split, but we have seen it from him historically, right? We've seen that in the past. Let's take another look at this nice little bit of mechanics.
View, just switching between his guns, using that Severum. Nice job switching off. Just great heal coming out from him as well to dodge.
Cool as a cucumber as well.
Yeah.
Not a single flicker of emotion on his face there. But it was the first dodge on the Fate's Cold knockup that I think was the most impressive part of the play.
Definitely was. Just very solid micro coming out from iBoy.
And it's what you expect, because, like, realistically, the micro is not what we've criticized from iBoy anyway, right? Nobody's saying that he doesn't know how to play Aphelios. Nobody's saying that he doesn't know how to get damage out during the fights. It's kind of when he's in trying to get in position before the fight starts, he's getting caught out.
Exactly. And one thing I want to highlight is how XX has had to constantly hover around the bottom half of the map because of that pressure in topside. It means that Vici can constantly try to set up dives in the bottom lane, and XX and Maple have to constantly be ready to react.
I'll just move back into this bottom lane as Lien is moving over as well on the Volibear. We're seeing both teams really starting to stack in this bottom half of the map. Bear in mind there's no dragon right now.
Vici also does have the Rift Herald, so LNG trying to stay in a position where they can always answer.
They're committing onto Lien here. He's going to jump straight out of the fight though, and Solar Flare to answer as Zika comes out from the side. XX has a stopwatch, and it means he gets out on a Dark Passage. That might have been a misclick there from Hunt.
Still, though, that could have been a lot worse, but Maple missed everything to start off that fight. Missed Sleepy Trouble, missed the first Paddle Star onto Lien, and now Vici can just turn towards mid. They're going to be able to pick up this tower as well.
Nicely done here by Vici to find an advantage off the back of that one. The tower should go down with just a couple more autos. Maple here to try and clear it, but it's not going to happen in time. And Lien also sees an opportunity here to steal a whole bunch of XX's farm.
And we also, I was going to say, we also see Cube bullying Flandre on the mini-map, but great job by the observers to show us some action. I don't think Flandre is actually going to really look for anything when Lien is still in the jungle and Zika also nearby.
Yeah, I can't really force the issue at that point, but when we look across the scoreboard right now, when you look at the CS numbers and whatnot, there aren't any massive leads, aside from obviously Cube is getting pretty far ahead in the top side. But when you look at the gold lead at the very top of your screen, it's 3,000, almost 4,000 in favor of Vici at this point in the game.
Obviously, you put that gold lead along with the fact that they have 2 turrets to none. We've also seen Lillian constantly counter jungling XX, and they've been able to build up this lead. But now we're at a point, right? We look at LNG's items. It is going to be a bit closer, and now we're going to start seeing these fights where, you know, execution-wise, who can ever come out on top is going to be the one to win out.
Yeah, you can see the Cull has finished off now, so that's a huge catch-up point for Light, where he's going to be able to get towards that 2-item power spike. It's going to be a similar timing, though, to iBoy, because he's already got the Zeal in his inventory.
Yeah, and ultimately, I still favor Vici's odds from the fact that they now have pressure in both mid and top, so they can try to keep FLICKR and Maple settled in under their tier 2 turrets and constantly try to make picks on bot like they're looking for right now.
They're looking to try and make something happen. It's just going to be the Gromp is the main point of the action right now. Leon, he's really, really wanting to make more happen with this Volibear. He wants a gank. He might just have found it right here as Solar Flare does go wide from Hung, actually, and Leon jumping in, Fate's Call to keep him safe, and now FLICKR arriving on the scene as well. Leon's in trouble, actually, because FLICKR is going to be able to pull someone into the Death Realm here. The rest of Vici have arrived on the scene, though, and they're going for a dive themselves. Cube the wants to tank it on up, but nobody falls just yet. Duan grabs him with a Moonlight Vigil as iBoy lops his head off.
And overall, that could have been way different had Hung hit that initial ultimate. Maple wasn't here, so Vici did have numbers advantage, still going to be able to pick up 1 kill, and you would expect him to be able to turn that into Dragon, but you do have a lot of low health bars, and Maple can obviously continue to dish out paddles, starts to try and dissuade them.
These teams just going toe-to-toe, and every single fight it feels like barely getting away by the skin of their teeth.
It feels like either slight misexecution or even a slight outplay on the other side is what's constantly keeping these fights from really popping off.
And you know what? Whether or not it's a matter of, you know, whoever wins this series here today, what I've seen so far, it feels like these two teams are at a very similar level when it comes to just outright play, when it comes to how they're executing on their composition.
It feels like this is as evenly matched of a matchup as we've had in the LPL at all. So it is interesting to see and also very good for setting expectations. I know something you find very important going forward. And especially which of these teams can really start contending for that upper middle tier. Obviously, Vici are sitting at 1 and 3. LNG only slightly better at 2 and 3.
Nice little lantern there to stop Zika being able to answer some of the damage. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Trying to set expectations for these teams has been a little bit difficult because it does feel like the identities of these two teams have changed since spring. When we thought about LNG back in spring, we called them the scavengers of the league because it didn't feel like they knew how to be proactive. And it does feel like they're being more proactive than that in this series.
At least spring, it didn't feel like they were as set in their ways as some teams to where, like when you watch Top Esports, right, you can know Karsa is going to gank top and mid. When you watch IG back in spring, you knew Ning was always going to be topside. When you look at LNG, XX is very flexible with where he can go and would typically just kind of play around his potential matchups in lane states. But we've seen this split. He is gravitating more towards playing with Maple, and they are trying to build more of this mid-jungle synergy.
Well, our Kentucky Fried chart came up just a moment ago there, Lyric, and despite the fact that we're talking about this is a very even matchup, right now Vici are 5,000 almost gold ahead at this point, and the Colonel's liking the look of that, because he gave him a 75% chance at this point in the game. He's saying that we're going to game 3 right now.
I agree with him. We have the map completely open for Vici. You're going to be able to abuse side lanes. We already saw it happen, right? Maple was pushed in under turret, wasn't able to join that fight until very late because he has cleansed. Zika going to feel great in that 1v1 in bot, also has TP so he can join at any time, so they're going to have global map pressure. And I don't want to keep hammering home on the Aphelios, but you know they have an Aphelios.
And Kalista don't scale all that well.
No, she does not.
We're getting to the point now where LNG have to start making things happen.
Right, sure. Renekton also doesn't scale very well, and you could even have this discussion about LeBlanc versus Zoe, but at the end of the day, Vici are so far ahead, they do have the champions to snowball this advantage.
Also, it's worth mentioning that the difference between, like, Kalista it's not necessarily just that Kalista falls off, it's just that we've all seen what Aphelios can do in the late game. It's not just a matter of Kalista not being that good, it's a matter of Aphelios being great.
It's comparative, right? It's relative. Ooh, we're actually seeing a lot of damage, but every fight's baited us so far, Munch, so I don't know if a kill will actually happen.
You just keep talking about what you want to talk about. I'll interrupt you if it all actually kicks off, but
we see a bear running.
He's going for it. The jungle book is finally happening. Solar Flare across the team as well, but Leanne has to back away from this one.
Oh,
That's
God.
The Paddle Star. But you can already start to see that Aphelios damage with the Infernum across the team.
He cues in just to ult right out, and I can understand that forcing a fight under LNG's mid-tier 2 probably isn't the play. You want to try and bait them to coming out into their jungle, maybe threaten some sort of Baron play.
I just kind of wish that they had made that assessment before going for the dive, rather than, oh my days, the damage from iBoy. But rather than just like getting halfway through the dive and then going.
What's funny is they're making this play now. So, sure, I guess they got a bit of damage onto LNG, but they didn't really blow any summoners. Light did have to use a flash, but you could have done this to start off, and Lian would have had his ult and summoners as well.
Keep your eyes on Zika here, because if he can find himself a pick, it could just secure the Baron at this point. XX is there. Cube flushes straight over towards him to deny any kind of smite steal. Baron for Vici. Can they find a fight as well is the question. Duan gets the knock up onto Cube. Hung is here off on the side as well. XX is getting cut down though, and Cube 1v4 finds a kill. Flandre will answer it as Hung flashes away and keeps himself safe. Now Light desperately trying to kite back, but he can't get away from this one. iBoy gets the gravitum onto Maple, but the cleanse keeps him safe.
Yeah, ultimately Vici obviously picking up a huge win, even if it is a 2-for-2 in the end. We do have a bit of a brawl. Maybe Zika can find another.
Zika wants another pick here, and he will find exactly that. 4 kills go the way of Vici, as well as the Baron.
Now we're going to get to a point where Vici having this Baron, it is a bit disappointing they don't have it on Q, but the fact that Zika will have it means you can play out through 2 lanes and kind of pull that pressure across the map like we've already talked about.
Hey, and when we look at this mid laner, right, Zika, we were excited for the LeBlanc. It's looking great.
Yeah, starting this off, we also saw Cube jump in towards the top side and just pulling a lot of pressure from LNG. Obviously, Vici able to 2-man the Baron. Here, it looks like Cube's going to go down, but bursts down XX right away. Hung getting chased down on the opposite side is quite disappointing, but iBoy and Zika running forward here as well as Lian. They just have so much damage to take care of the carries from LNG.
It's going to be an Inferno Drake as well for Vici as they are stacking up these advantages. 8,000 gold at 25 minutes. That is the kind of lead that might just be insurmountable, and Lian is feeling it right there. You see him dropping a dance outside of the tower because he knows there's nothing LNG can do to stop him.
Nope, so Vici are going to be able to just keep going forward, and now they're just going to bounce back between mid and bot wave, securing these turrets. They don't really have a good way to threaten it.
iBoy, what are you doing? Oh, he's going in. He's going to win the fight. How do they get away with that as a play? Lian there to tank everybody up, stacking up the Rens, but it doesn't matter because Aphelios is here and he has the damage.
Munch, I was just going to say they should not be able to dive these turrets against LNG. I'm completely wrong. This bear is absolutely insane. And iBoy with the confidence to go in as well. They're going to be able to finish off the game.
That blast cone with iBoy's name tag, I panicked right there for the side of Vici. I thought they might have just thrown the game, but no. What they've done is won the game here against LNG. 27 minutes on the clock as a couple more kills will go their way. They can't get onto iBoy. Flashes underneath the tower, so he will go down in the end. Flandre able to get the kill. And now they're all going to... Just end the game, guys. You guys could have just won the game. You don't have to fight Flandre right now.
But Munch, you can build up your KDAs, have good stats, and you know, feel good about your win.
When you word it like that,
exactly.
Maybe this was the optimum play.
I'm just saying, like, Zika can be whatever he was, like 4-0-1 on LeBlanc, or he can be like, you know, 10-0-10.
That's true. So actually, optimal play here coming out from Vici, getting an extra kill onto Flandre, but it did mean iBoy ends up going down on this one, so no flawless game from him.
Doesn't look too phased by it in the player cam. Looks pretty fine.
A win is a win. I think he's still going to take it.
Let's see here, because this looked very dicey. Surprising that no one from LNG can actually find the pick onto him. And then great job from Lian, just not caring, using that ult, disabling the turret, going in. And this is where we thought iBoy was going down. Survives just by the skin of his teeth.
Light just went down in 3 autos right there, or 2 autos and an ult. Coming out from iBoy, just annihilated this Kalista. I'm pretty sure one of those autos was actually onto Duan as well, just Infernum doing Infernum things.
We did also mention how when you see Volibear in the jungle, he does go the full tank route, and Lian has become pretty tanky. No one on the side of LNG going to be able to deal with him very well.
It's like, you know what, if he wasn't tanky enough, he can also just disable the tower. So there's that little bonus on top of everything else. With the Dead Man's Plate, it's going to be difficult to deal with the bear coming out of the jungle. Baloo is looking fantastic right now. Zika just going to get a chunk of damage onto Duan. And I mean, LNG, this is going to be their last-ditch effort. This is going to be their last chance to try and hold on to this game. But they need a miracle.
Yeah, they need some kind of insane paddle star chunking out iBoy with the rest of LNG ready to follow up and just burst him out to win some kind of fight. And even then, Lil Yan, Cube, and Zika are all massive.
Hey, and look, I have to take back something I said earlier on in this game, because I said, look, Lien hasn't been proactive on the volley bear early on. Maybe this was just a takeaway. Maybe this isn't a pick he's comfortable on. Clearly, he knows what he's doing. He knows how much damage he can take, and he was more than happy to set up that play for Rival.
And he was just abusing natural advantages in his lanes. And oh my god, that was insane from Zika.
The chains, I'm assuming that was a mimic on the Sigil of Malice there. That was so much damage onto Dwan. Now they're going to try and end the game as well. Light takes a chunk. Cube comes in with the stun, and Flandre just locked up by Leona. XX goes in, but there's realistically not a whole bunch you can do about this one. Light kiting on out onto Lien, but the stacks aren't going to do all or too much, and there's another kill for Zika. This one is done and dusted. We're going to game 3, 16-4, and a 13,000 gold lead at the 30-minute mark. Vici Gaming proving that they got some stuff up their sleeve.
Yeah, looking really good. The draft this time around being, you know, you can understand the identity was very good. Cube having confidence, he can just win out in this matchup, getting first turret almost by himself. Zika also having a great game on the LeBlanc, completely facilitated by the volley bear. And we don't even need to talk about the bot lane. The bot lane plays in this game speak for themselves.
Yeah, the bot, I mean, iBoy